Okay, so in this part we are going to make our specular texture. So at the beginning I want to explain some stuff about specular because it's really different, because it depends on your game engine. So right now we are just making a specular to make it look good in Maya, but really often when you export your model to a different game engine, like for example UDK or CryEngine, this specular looks a little bit different. So people use different tricks in game engines to increase values on the specular or decrease it. So there are lots of tricks how to do. Of course, you can change your specular in Photoshop and see how it looks in game engine. So really often when I was working on UDK, I was making cool specular that looks cool in Maya, but after exporting it into UDK, it was just not good enough. So I had to change some stuff in Photoshop and make it look good just in game engine. So right now we have just copy our diffuse texture and name it specular, and we are now seeing applied our specular map to our character, but of course it's the same texture right now as diffuse, so you've got some really major highlights on the character. So we have to select parts of the character and decrease lightness. And because of our character has lots of clothes, we will have this specular texture mostly a very dark, because our clothes does not have good specular, because this is standard material like this shirt or this jeans. It just don't have a specular. So the most visible part on our texture, on our specular texture, will be our face and the skin parts around his hands. And you see right now I'm making some color changes to the skin, and I'm moving a little bit to a blue color because it will give just a nice blue specular to the face, and it makes really better the specular, because otherwise we will have white specular. So I think sometimes it looks better when you have a little bit bluish specular on skin. So lots of people are doing this stuff, like me right now. So we are just now testing how it looks. Of course, still have to work on our shirt and rest of the body, but now we are just tweaking hair and face. And of course, hair just does not have a specular really high. Of course, it depends on the hair. Just if you've got hairs really straight, you've got some good specular, but if you've got your hair in mess, they just have just a little specular. They almost don't have a specular. So we will make our hairs a little bit darker than the face, of course, and this way So we are still trying to test it, and I think in Maya there is a problem because really often I have good result in viewport, but my specular texture is very dark, and when I bring it to some game engine, my specular is just too low and I have to increase the lightness of it. So right now we are moving to this shirt, and we of course have to make it really dark. It will just almost don't have a specular. So we've got all these layers that we've been doing in movies before, so we have to increase their lightness or turn off completely. And I'm looking still for some layers that add lightness to this shirt. We have to turn off them. And this yellow part, of course, it's too shiny right now, so we lower the lightness of it. And of course the skin part, of course we are making it a little bit blue. And decreasing the lightness. And of course we've got these little hairs on the hand, so we want to make them really dark to not be affected by the specular. So I think it's probably too strong, but we are now moving to the rest of the hand. So it's nothing difficult here, just turning off some layer and increasing the lightness and desaturate sometimes. And sometimes specular maps are just completely desaturated, and mostly I think they are just desaturated, but in some cases we are able to use color specular, so color specular map. So we can do this. It looks better, I think. We've got some bugs, of course, but we will fix them. Some parts sometimes just gets too dark, and some of them gets too bright, so sometimes you just have to repaint the texture a little bit. Of course, specular map depends what the object you've got. Sometimes when you've got a cartoon character without any real stuff, real materials, just colors and stuff like this, you maybe just don't have specular map, but you just have a color applied to the specular and that's it. You don't need a texture. Sometimes people are making texture, specular map texture from diffuse. They, for example, take a red or green channel and apply to a specular slot, so this way they can create a specular map in game engine rather than doing this kind of work in Photoshop. So we have to right now decrease the lightness of our belt, but I just want to have some lightness there because it's leather, so on some parts it's nice to have some shiny stuff. And of course this metal part, we will make it a little bit sharper, increasing levels on this metal part. Yeah, so the most light parts of our character will be our belt and face. Not a belt, but just this metal part of the belt. So it's almost done. I've decreased intensity on the skin a little bit. I think it's good enough right now. Of course, we will see how it will look after exporting to the Marmoset engine. And our jeans just don't have a specular, and the boots, of course, they are made of leather, so they have some specular out there. So I think our character is almost done. The next part will be about exporting it to the Marmoset engine, Marmoset Toolbag, and playing with this. So you see our specular is completely dark, just we've got some light areas around the face and the skin part, and of course this metal part on the belt. But the rest of the texture is almost black, without any specular. So you can use levels like I was showing you to increase the whole texture, but mostly it's done. So I think see you in next part, and that's it.